recording, and welcome everyone today to this HBF webinar. It's good to see so many of you returning from last week. The names are becoming recognisable every time we do this, and I'm sure Alex is chuckling to himself too, because I know he's been on the phone for you guys for the last few days, making sure you're here. We're quite excited today because we've got two panelists joining us, as you will have seen from the emails that we've sent you. We have Tracy Hill from the HBF, which is the Home Builders Federation, who's actually our partner on this programme. So we're super excited to have Tracy here today. And we're also joined by Ricky from Regency Grove. They are consultants. They do various projects, quantity surveying. I know a lot of you guys have asked about, so I'm sure, Ricky, you're going to have a number of questions on that area today. Before we get into the intro piece, just a couple of little bits of housekeeping, which I'm sure our students should know by now, but just to remind you all, you can see at the bottom of your screen, there's a little chat box, so you can put your comments in there if you want to. There's also a Q&A box, so if you have explicit questions for any of the panel or for myself, Alex or Chris, please pop them in the Q&A box. And you can put your hand up as well if you just want to call something out. So you guys should know these by now, but if anyone's stuck, just pop a comment in, and we're going to be reading these throughout anyway. So I can see someone's already put one in. Yes, this is the chat box. Thanks, Chris. Thank you for that. So let's get started then. Tracy, we are super thrilled to have you here today. Obviously, Chris, myself, and we've been talking to you guys for quite a long time now. This project has been going on since September 2019. So we're always talking about the HBF, but this is the first time our students have had the opportunity to meet you and actually ask you some questions. So I'd love for you to just intro a little bit about yourself and talk more about what the HBF do.
Yeah, that's fine. Hi, everyone. So another Tracy on the calls, which is always confusing when we're talking to each other. So I'm from the Home Builders Federation. Federation has a role to represent house builders. So they're house builders across the country. When they register with us, they become our members. And what we offer in return for their membership fees is support, advice, and content on housing policy, how they develop planning, how they understand regulation in terms of home building, what the health and safety perspective is, and of course we support them in the promotion of the sector as a great place to work. With diverse career opportunities. So I work in the skills partnership team of HBF, and as part of that I bid to CITB for a pot of money to develop some pathway programmes, the FE Leavers Pathway Programme being one of them, and we started working in partnership with Pathway CTM probably early to mid last year, to talk about what an ideal programme would look like for further education leavers. So in doing that, we looked at some of the facts, so to sort of share some of those with you guys and give you some context. Government have set as a target of building 300,000 homes a year for our country, at least for the next 3 to 5 years. So that's huge demand out there, which requires a huge workforce and a massive new workforce as well. So we are looking, in order to meet those targets, we need at least another 50,000 recruits. Wow. On top of that, we've also got an ageing workforce, that is due to retire over the sort of next 3 to 5 years of about 150,000. So you can quickly see how many people we need to get into house building. And that is across trades, technical roles, management roles, And of course, from an FE leaver perspective, we're looking for the people to come in as apprentices, people that might want to join a degree course after this, with sponsorship degrees. They might come in as a work placement and then progress directly into a role with additional career and qualification support that's outside of an apprenticeship. So there are a whole host of opportunities. So with that in mind, we wanted to try and design a programme that would put you on a good footing when you turned up at an employer's door. So that's really sort of giving you employability skills, CV, interview practice, bring our employers to the table to help with all this. And it goes without saying, really, and I haven't mentioned this, that our employers are wholly behind this programme. So they were behind me when I put the bid in for funding for this programme. They want to attract new entrants. They see the value of new people and young people. You're from a different area. You're very innovative. You're very digitally minded. You're inspirational. You've got all those new ideas and different ways of doing things. So they wanted to sort of help us put the programme together and work with Pathway CTM to give you as much insight as they possibly could. So yes, they will get involved in interviews. They will offer work placements. They will tell you what it's like to be out on site. So what we're trying to help you to do really is to have the knowledge and the initial skills to take yourself through that door. So understand what the environment's like on a home building site. Understand what the behaviours are, what's expected of you when you're on a building site, what is safe to do, what isn't safe to do. So that when you walk out there, you don't stumble and fall, you're not hanging around thinking, oh, what should I do? Why is he doing that? Why has he got a helmet on? Why hasn't he got his gloves on? That sort of thing. So it's just understanding all of that. So, we're looking for I'm probably telling you too much all in one go here. So stop me, Tracy, if I am. We're looking for all the trades. So there's key shortage in brickwork, ground workers, carpentry, from a technical side, quantity surveyors, site managers. I mean, we need all the trades. So it goes without saying we need all of the trades, but there will be some that are more sought after than others. And I guess from my perspective, to sort of point you to any other source of additional information over and above what Pathway CTM give you, I would send you to the housebuildingcareers.org.uk site, which I'm sure Tracy and Chris and Alex have pointed you to before. It tells you a whole host of information about all the different careers that you can get involved in, how to access them, and the job opportunities that are out there at the moment. And I know that you'll all be thinking, well, what job opportunities, things are changing over the last 2 to 3 months. But yes, sites might be closing at the moment to take on board the restrictions from government, but they still have to get up and running and open at a later date. So at the moment they're making the sites safe, and they're doing their planning and preparation for when they do open. So recruitment processes are still ongoing in many of our companies. Those that have gone on hold are still retaining the contact and details of the people that have already applied. And the process may be pushed back very slightly, but it's still in place. So all sort of involvement in this programme is still really key to accessing those opportunities further down the line.
And I was just quickly going to say, actually, to the 28 students who are on this already, the fact that you're on a webinar with the Home Building Federation, I think is brilliant. Like, you can talk about that when you go for your interview. So Tracy, thanks so much for giving up your time today.
Thank you for that, Tracy. That was brilliant. And I know that there's going to be questions coming through after that. So, Ricky, it'd be great. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. And if you'd like to sort of do the same, a bit of intro about yourself and a bit of more information about what Regency Grove is.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just picking up on just what Tracy said then about sites sort of closing, but we are actually finding on quite a few of our projects, contractors and developers are starting to reopen sites at the moment. Obviously, there's been that stage where the initial government advice came out and a lot of companies shut down sites initially to kind of improve their practices in line with guidance. But the last week or so, we've actually seen a few sites reopening. And I think some of the larger developers are starting to reopen sites as well, which is good news. But yeah, just coming on to ourselves. So we're a firm of chartered surveyors, building consultancy. So we cover project management, quantity surveying, building surveying, and bank monitoring. We've been trading for about a year, so we're a fairly new company, consisting of 10 people. So there's five of us that own the company. We set up the company, as I said, about a year ago. We've now got 5 employees as well, ranging from admin assistant up to kind of associate level, so senior people. The sort of sectors we work in is primarily residential, so we do a lot of work for individual clients, a lot in the sort of high-end residential sector in central London, but we also do a lot of work for smaller developers up to sort of 30 or 40 units. These are generally developers that don't have their own construction arm, so we will act, on the quantity surveying side particularly, and procurement, contracts, that sort of thing, working for the developer. Yeah, as I say, primarily it's residential. We also get involved in commercial work, so office space. I've got a project in Southend in Essex, which is a sort of business park, industrial estate. So it's quite varied in terms of the sectors we work in.
Ricky, I was just going to ask, how did you start off in your career, and what was your trade, or was it management that you went into?
Yeah, so I went to uni, graduated in 2010 or 2011, studied construction management. I then went into industry after my degree, working for a practice, slightly larger practice, but still a sort of SME, up to about 80 people. So I've always worked on the consultancy side. The company I used to work for then merged with a larger company, and since then, me and 4 former colleagues have set up our own business last year.
I mean, quantity surveyor, was that your original role?
So I'm in project management, but
okay.
Yeah, it's similar to quantity surveying, but I'll sort of primarily manage a lot more of the upfront feasibility stage as well, and get involved more on programming, for example, scheduling and contract administration, so managing contracts as well.
And so what made you want to get into the construction industry? Did you know that right from the start, or when did you know, well, and what was your plan to go to uni to get to where you are now? How did that unravel?
Yeah, to be honest, setting out, I've never really had a specific plan in terms of what I wanted to do in the industry, but construction's always kind of interested me. Originally, I was looking at apprenticeship schemes, but I then decided that I thought I'd be sort of better placed, more of an office-based role. But still, the good thing about my role is that I do get out quite a lot. Obviously, not in the current climate, but there's a lot of opportunity to go to sites, visit sites, and not be based in the office. But yeah, I've always been interested in construction, and I've kind of just ended up in a client side role, kind of through chance. When I graduated in 2011, it was a very difficult job market post recession, so it was kind of a case of taking whatever opportunities were there, really.
Okay, good stuff. And it's interesting. I'm just looking at from your point of view. So you go out to sites. You're obviously in the office as well, because we've had quite a lot of students who have asked about quantity surveying, project management, as well as obviously the trades.
Yeah.
So I just think it's, in terms of the home building side and Barratt Homes, Barclay we had on last week. How do you integrate with them? How does your consultancy business work in terms of the home building side and working with these big players? How does it all work?
Yeah, so there's kind of, in the house building sector, there's you get developers that have their own construction arm, and that will be the likes of Barratt's, Permason, the big names in the industry. They will buy assets, they'll buy land or existing property. They'll be the developer and they'll build it out themselves. So they generally wouldn't use consultants like us. We would work for developers that are either slightly smaller scale, that don't have a construction arm, so they don't actually build out sites themselves, or we work with developers that are primarily funded either through sort of consortiums or overseas money, and again those sorts of developers don't have their in-house construction arm, so we manage the whole process, including procurement for those developers. We'll go out to tender main contractors, we'll manage the design stage for them, and we'll then manage the contract side for those developers. But as I say, the likes of Barratt's would, they'd employ QSs in-house, they'd employ all their site managers in-house, and project managers. So we don't generally tend to work with those kind of larger developers. Okay, and I guess in your experience, what would you say life is like out on site, so to speak? Any sort of top tips for the students? Because we've got people here in carpentry, people here in brickwork, people here do want to go into the management side as well. Just maybe give us a bit of an insight into your experience in your career. Yeah, I mean it's quite a varied environment really. You've got the management side. It's definitely not a corporate environment, so you don't really find people in suit and ties and prim and proper. We're probably the sort of people that get mocked by the guys on site, really, the managers and the tradesmen. But it's not a corporate environment. It's quite a dynamic environment. There's a lot of different cultures, different people that you'll see, especially in central London sites. But it's very fast moving as well, and I think it's quite an exciting workplace, to be honest. It's definitely not, you're not sat at the desk all day long, and there's a lot going on construction sites. There's different trades, there's different professions. So it's a very exciting environment, I think, to work in. Ricky, what would you say to this? I was with a gentleman before this bloody COVID-19 came about, and he's in one of our colleges, and he's like, oh, do you know what, actually, it's quite hard to get a job sometimes, and I was thinking of maybe just working in the supermarket and just starting to work my way up into management that way. What would you say to that young man about why he should get involved in home building and into your sector? Well, I think the same can be said in construction. There's definitely opportunities there to start off on site, working as a tradesman, and to work your way into management there. We find that a lot with contractors we work with, where the project managers or the site managers will have started off with a trade in carpentry, for example. So there's definitely 100% there's scope to work your way up in the industry. I don't think there's many barriers in terms of qualifications. There's obviously a lot of support now, as Tracy was saying, in terms of the government targets to a number of houses to build. There's a lot of support there, and the government definitely want to encourage people to enter the industry. So I definitely think it's one of those industries where there is scope to move your way up. And my final question, just before I hand back to Tracy, is you're based whereabouts? And obviously you're a growing company, so it's quite good to know where you're based, and obviously where So we're in Surbiton, so southwest London. We've got a small office there, but we sort of cover. It's one of the things as a consultancy practice, we cover quite a large area. So especially on the bank monitoring side. So bank monitoring is basically where there's a funder who will be lending money to a developer. In order for the developer to get paid by the bank, they need a surveyor to go out to site and to certify payments. So that takes us quite a way around the country. So we kind of go up to, don't really go up north, but up past the Midlands and southwest as well. So yeah, it's quite mobile, but all service from our Surbiton office.
Wow.
Thanks.
Thank you for that, Ricky. I've got to touch on a point with you, Tracy, that Ricky just raised, because I know in our webinar last week, there was a lot of discussion around the number of sites that have closed across the UK, obviously due to COVID-19. But as Ricky just said, some of those are starting to reopen, or at least planning to reopen. I know your membership covers about 80% of all home building, I think. So what's your take on that, Tracy? Are there things starting to open now from your perspective, from the larger employers?
From the larger employers, we're not necessarily getting that impression at the moment. They are still dealing with huge, obviously the bigger ones, they're dealing with huge numbers of on-site subcontractors and self-employed. Yeah. And they're looking at the models, the start models, how long it'll take them to get up and running. They're having conversations with the suppliers as well, because that impacts on their build time as well. So, for example, brick kilns, when they close their, I don't know what the technical word is, but when they stop the kilns from cooking the bricks, I told you I'm not technical. Bricks, it takes them a good while to reheat those kilns up to continue to produce the bricks, etc. So they're all looking at the timelines and that. So I don't think any of them are ruling out, opening their sites as soon as they possibly can. And it may be like Ricky says, that some of the smaller ones can operate with the distancing rules, in a safe way. If they're not building huge numbers and they've not got loads of individuals on site, they can accommodate those restrictions. But certainly the bigger ones, they're not telling us that, but they are waiting imminently to reopen.
Wow. So I suppose ultimately, it's not all going to reopen at once, is it? I think that's the message here, that you're going to get some of those smaller ones and maybe a more staggered approach, because those larger ones, as you say, have got a huge amount to deal with before they can really go back to normal, or maybe the new version of normal that we keep hearing about in the press anyway. But I think, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Thank you for that, Tracy. Alex, I wonder if I could bring you in here. So Ricky and Tracy, just so you know, obviously Alex is our outreach manager, and every student on this webinar should have heard from Alex by now, more than once, most probably. Alex, I know that our students have been asking you a number of questions over the past few weeks. I wonder if now you have an opportunity. We've obviously got we've got HBF on the call, and we've got Regency. Maybe you'd like to throw a couple of those questions out.
Oh, thank you. Guys, thank you for actually coming in today. Thank you, because I've been speaking to most of you throughout the week, and thank you for the employers, Ricky and Tracy. If I can pose this question to Tracy first, and then I can come to Ricky, if that's okay. Tracy, as you mentioned, there's a vast amount of opportunities that's going to be coming in. I just kind of want to reiterate for the students the importance of what we're trying to do now, while the time is lapsed through the COVID, of the partnership and what each sector or each dimension does. Like, for instance, you are looking over what the employees does, what we do, and by the students being and participating in their courses, just to what's the word? A lot of them want to know what's going to happen next, and I think it's by us. Well, I've been speaking to them to try to ensure and to try to let them know the reasons why the partnership of the home building is, to let them know that this is what we do, the partnerships with employers, the partnerships with the colleges, and we mediate between them, and this is what's yet to come. So I know you said it a lot earlier on, but just to go over again, just for maybe one or two that didn't come in earlier, about the opportunities that is available, and how, as an organization, for all of us, what we intend to do from today onwards, if that's possible. I don't know if you can.
Alex, what was the question there? Sorry.
Right. So I will do the statement first, and then I'll come back. So the question is basically to reiterate what you were speaking earlier on about what the apprenticeships and the need from the employees, what they've actually spoke to you about, and the importance of actually being part of this program for the students. I think, you know, just to give them an indication of what we are actually trying to do from the time they finish their course into employment.
Yeah. Okay. So as I said earlier on, we're in daily contact with employers, not always the same one every day, but we're constant contact with employers. We have a lot of working groups as part of our HBF work. So we're constantly keeping in touch with employers about their whole attraction piece, which is their recruitment piece, who they're recruiting, where their skill shortages are, in what numbers, in what regions, and at what level. We're constantly working with them to develop skills frameworks, which are on our website, that give people an idea of what, you know, what a skilled brickie looks like, and what qualifications they'd be expected to have. So we're constantly doing that. So in using that information, we are sharing it with our delivery partners like Pathway CTM. We're talking to Tracy and Chris, and we will be, Alex, with yourself on a regular basis about what we're looking for, what the latest trends are, what's working well, what good ideas are coming out of our meetings. We also have a governance group, which I know is not particularly of interest to the students, but they constantly check in with us and see what pathways are delivering to make sure it meets with their needs. Because there's no point, Tracy and you guys, delivering something that the employers don't want and won't be of use to them. So, you know, we're constantly doing that. And so we are connecting in. So where there's problems getting hold of employers, would be the connection back in, where our employers are saying, you know, we desperately need somebody in Surbiton for whatever, you know, we'll be going back in and saying, you need to talk to X recruitment guy in Redrow, Telford, Galliard, whoever. That, you know, they've got a huge amount of opportunities. So we're keeping that contact going all of the time, and the breadth of careers that are on offer, you know, they're increasing all the time. You know, you sort of think of new ones, like, so the eco warriors out there, you know, the sustainability coordinators that we're looking for, there's environmental coordinators, there's for the tech whizzes, there's building visualizers, all these new names, but you know, the creation, and a lot of this will come into Ricky's sort of work as well. The design is, you know, is huge, the environmental impact on that, the community impact on that. So as well as all the on-site hard hat opportunities, it's huge. So whilst we're looking at trades as this cohort, the door is not closed on any other opportunities. So, you know, project management, site management, you know, it's huge. And all of those opportunities have career progression.
Yeah, I think more or less what I was trying to get to, just to reassure everyone that there are things there, that, you know, there are an amazing amount of opportunities, a vast amount across the UK.
Alex, sorry, I've just got a question that's come in here from Brett. Brett, for Ricky, what made you set up your own business?
Firstly, it was an opportunity that kind of came out of the merger of the company we used to work for. So me and the sort of 5 or 4 other colleagues at the time decided there was a bit of a gap in the market, but it was definitely something we always wanted to do anyway, in terms of be our own bosses, and you know, ultimately it's financially more beneficial, it's more tax efficient. But also, you know, it's more motivation for us to grow the business ourselves. And yeah, definitely enjoyed it a lot in the first year. So.
That's amazing. And guys, I want to open up the questions here to any students. Last week, we got some people putting up their hands and asking some good questions, which was great. You can obviously use the Q&A box to ask anything, but you've got Ricky here, who's obviously gone into project management, business owner, has taken that risk. He's in Surbiton, which is kind of Surrey, London, isn't it, Ricky?
Yeah. Yeah.
So those students, East Surrey College, it comes to mind, the ones in London as well. Ricky's nearby for that. We've got Tracy here, who's obviously from the Home Building Federation, you know, the association across so many different companies there. So ask her any question that you want. if there are any questions at all from any students. Tracy, have you got any questions that came from Alex earlier, or?
Actually, it was a point that you raised, Tracy, around the different types of roles available in home building. Obviously, this programme, we have very much focused on trade roles, and we have a number of bricklayers and plasterers and carpenters, and those that want to go into quantity surveying, you'll be pleased to know, Ricky. I actually read an article a couple of days ago around technology being increasingly used, especially on those home building sites, and especially in the current climate. So drone technology, maybe still quite early, but certainly I think over the past few weeks, with everything that's gone on, maybe more attractive moving forward. What are your employers saying about that? I ask because some of our students in technology are very interested in that side, and they can see the connection between two.
Ricky's probably more advanced and technological to answer this. I do know that they are starting to use drones for planning. They're using them for design. They use them for quality control as well. So, you know, there's a whole host of technologies that I wouldn't pretend to understand that they use. Ricky, over to you.
Yeah, so there's various forms of so quite a big new advance in the last few years is BIM, building information technology. So this is where the design process is modelled in three-dimensional, as opposed to traditionally it was drawn on CAD and printed on 2D paper, which is still the case. But what with building information technology, everything's modelled in 3D, and you can actually, without trying to get too technical, it's a lot better for clash detection, for coordination purposes. So obviously, the thing with construction, and this is what makes it quite a kind of specialist or individual in industry, is that there's so many components and as you say, so many different trades. So with building information technology, BIM, it brings all the elements together, and you can model, for example, mechanical and electrical services, clash detection with steel beams, with brickwork. So that kind of role is definitely a growing role, and you've now got specialist kind of BIM coordinators. And those are the guys that will manage the model production and input all of the data and information from different consultants. So obviously, working on a model, you've got architects, you've got mechanical and electrical consultants, you've got structural engineers, and then you've got specialists like sustainability consultants.
That's great. So even our students that do have that sort of more technology aspect, or maybe they've been looking at, you know, engineering, I guess, that there is certainly a tech route into this industry that's probably going to grow over the next few years. I think that's the kind of message I'm hearing. Yeah,
100%. So it's government driven. So BIM there's targets for BIM to be adopted and different levels of BIM to be adopted over time. So at the moment, we're still kind of in the infancy. But definitely in the next few years, it's it'll become common practice for all projects. At the moment, it's probably only being used on the major sites or the major projects. But it's definitely becoming more common, and it will start filtering through to kind of your smaller scale office buildings and residential, smaller scale development. So that's definitely will be a growing role. And just on the drone side of things, it's, we're seeing that quite a lot now with building surveys as well. So drones will be used, for example, to do a roof survey or a specialist planning survey where you need to get up high. It saves a lot of costs from, otherwise you have to scaffold the building or go up on a cherry picker, an elevated platform to get access to roofs, for example. So you're seeing drones used a lot on surveys and where you need aerial footage for land surveys, for example. So yeah, it's definitely a growing thing there in the industry.
Wow, thank you.
Which is great. I just want to go back to the students and say, guys, can you use the chat box just to put down again what you're interested in doing in terms of the job that you want, whether that be bricklaying, whether that be QS, whether that be site manager, groundwork, carpentry, just to put that down into the chat box again, because last week we did it. And there are a few names that came up there that I recognise. Alex, what are the students been saying on the ground this week? I wonder, with your phone calls, etc.
Sorry, can I just quickly interject? Every time we do these webinars, we become familiar with the students that are first to raise their hands and first to answer questions. And I've got to say, George, you've done it again. First one there. I think it's every time we've done it, letting us know. I've got 3 carpenters and I've got electrical installation as well. So I'm quantity surveying. Ella, I think we've seen you before as well. So it's quite good for you to hear from Ricky. Sorry to have interrupted, Chris.
No, don't worry. Ricky, we've got a couple of QSs in there. Ella, I don't know if you want to raise your hand and ask any questions now, because this is your opportunity. We speak to you guys throughout the week. We put special guests on a Thursday. It's your opportunity to ask them any questions, for example. If I'm a carpenter, I might want to ask a question about it, you know? If I want to get into QS, what has Ricky seen, for example? What's been going, electrical installation, plumbing, which is useful, which is good. No questions coming through at the moment, guys, which is always difficult for the hosts, always difficult. Ricky, in terms of, I guess, your experience, plumbing, QSs, electrical installations, if you were to go into a trade, what trade would you go into and why, based on what you've seen on site?
Well, it really depends on what your interests are. I mean, plumbing and electrical is very technical trade and technical skill. Carpentry also is technical, and it's more labour intensive. But what we do often quite find actually is, for some reason, carpenters a lot of the time are the guys that progress into site management roles. I don't know why particularly that is, whether that's just a coincidence, but it's quite often that you see site managers or foremen that started off their careers as carpenters.
Tracy, why is that? Whenever I go out on site and I speak to different companies, it's always the carpenters that seem to go into management. Why is that?
To be honest, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the reason is. It just does seem quite common that carpenters are the ones that end up in management roles. But yeah,
I think it might be because they see all aspects of the build.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
So
Sorry, Ricky. Sorry. We're just
having I mean, as a carpenter, you could be involved from day one. Making up formwork, for example, for foundations, and you'd end up fitting roof joists. So you would be involved from the start of a project till quite near the end. So that might be one of the reasons. Yeah.
Tracy Hill, anything to add to that, I wonder, or not?
No, I would have just said the same as Ricky. Really, they are there from the start. They could be involved in the framework if it is a wooden frame built house, or right through to fitting kitchens, the roof truss out in the garden, building all sorts of things. So it could possibly be that. And I guess that they are a follow-on trade, so they follow lots of other people's work as well as people following their work. So they're absolutely in the middle of the build from substructure to superstructure. So yeah, it's possibly that's what it is, but I don't know why either.
One of those weird things. I'm just going to interrupt here. We've got a question come through from Liam. I'm fairly certain that Liam's probably not on this programme, Chris, actually, but I'm going to read your question out anyway. Hi, Liam. I am studying plumbing level 2. I should be finishing this year, although we have been delayed by COVID-19. I'm interested in getting into more of a domestic role in terms of plumbing. My only concern is the low pay that comes with many apprenticeships. I'm 26 years old, so I do have more outgoing bills than the average student. Liam, it's a great question. Obviously, one we've not been asked before, actually, Chris. Our sort of group tends to be that kind of 15 to 18-year-old. So, Tracy, Ricky, what would you say to that person who's a little bit older than our main student base, but obviously looking for that apprenticeship in terms of the salaries, the money that's available for them?
I mean, there are other avenues into home building other than apprenticeship. So, if he was interested in diversifying slightly and looking at a degree course, that might sort of bring in more income. An apprenticeship wage is, a lot of our employers do top up earn the apprenticeship wage, but obviously I couldn't say, depending on which employer he worked for, whether for definite the specific ones would, but it is quite a difficult situation. I'm sorry, I can't offer you any more support on that one. I don't know.
No, just to jump in there, then you've got Ellie here in terms of from an employer perspective, Tracy. Just to kind of lead on what you were saying there, what we can do as well, it's brilliant to see, Liam, that you're on the line. We can provide you with follow-up in terms of what those salaries are from a starting perspective. But what I'd say is I've seen some really brilliant starting salaries from some of our employers. I'm just going to name drop like a couple because I know they're really comfortable with sharing. I got off the phone this morning with Telford Homes, and I know they have a really competitive starting salary for apprentices. So I really wouldn't be put off by the term apprenticeship and that being associated with a low starting salary, because it's really not the case. And you might have looked in a couple of cases and they look they might not look appealing to you or competitive to you, but what I'd say is look around, use us. As Tracy mentioned, it doesn't look like you are in our program based on your feedback, but Pathway are here to help kind of everyone in some capacity, so we'll help make sure you do that today.
It's really interesting, Ellie, from that point. It's always about where it's going to go, isn't it? Like Ricky obviously went to uni, but now he's started his own business, so you've always got to look at how to get your foot in the door, which is why we're here, and then where you're going to go through that afterwards. Ricky, I know you've got to head off for your quarter past, but just quickly before you do, I've just got a question in the chat box here saying QS trade is what they're interested in. You might be able to answer this. Which is better, completing a university degree or getting an apprenticeship if you're to go into QS? Like maybe your personal opinion, Ricky, if you know?
Yeah, well, in terms of, so to become a chartered surveyor through the RICS, Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, which is what I've done, you do need an RICS accredited degree, but you don't necessarily have to get chartered to be a QS. It's just obviously more beneficial from a progression point of view, and obviously from a salary point of view. But there are a lot of QSs who will work for developers and building contractors who won't necessarily have a degree or be chartered. So it is something that you can learn on the job, and there are kind of courses that you can do that won't necessarily get you chartered, but will help you to learn the profession. So yeah, it really depends whether your ambition is to become a chartered surveyor and potentially work your way up to higher positions. If that is the case, then I'd suggest going through the university route would be better. But there are companies, for example, ourselves, we sponsor an assistant QS. She's going through uni at the moment, so she's working. She's working for us, and she's on sort of day release for uni. So there are companies out there that will sponsor QSs.
And thank you, Ricky. Sorry.
I was going to.
I've got a couple of questions.
Question from Ella.
Go on then, and then I was going to do IBAD. Yeah, good question.
I know, Ricky. I know that you have to go, and I know Ella. She's one of our regular students on here, and she just asked a question specifically for you. Hi, Ella. Thank you. I had an interview for a QS apprenticeship a few months ago, and the employer recommended that I become familiar with construction jargon.
Yeah.
How would you say I should do that?
Yeah.
Ricky,
yeah, I mean, I'd look at a lot of content on the RICS website. There's a lot of, particularly obviously there's different pathways to become chartered. So when you go through your chartership, there's a lot of guidance published by the RICS on QS, quantity surveying, project management, building surveying. So that'd be a good place to start. There's obviously there's a lot of sort of studying books you can read up on, but I'll definitely I'd say that's a good place to start. And also the CIOB, they've got quite a lot of published guidance as well. But from a QS side, I'd definitely say go on the RICS chartership program, and you'll be able to download a lot of guidance from there.
So I guess in a roundabout way, although things are quite unusual for everybody at the moment, it does kind of reinforce that message, doesn't it, Ricky, that we do have a bit of time on our hands right now. So maybe checking out some of these websites will actually, I know the HBF is filled with various pieces that you can look for, lots of tools, lots of information, but those that you've just mentioned as well, so the RICS, etc., these are probably places where our students could just spend a little bit of time and kind of get that learning and research done now.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And as I say, a lot of it's easy to access. It's, I think you probably have to register, but it should be free to access a lot of that content.
Fabulous.
Well, and I'm pleased. We just got one more for IBAD. IBAD comes on all the sessions. Well done, mate. And this is, we set this up for you really because you wanted to get into QS and wanted to speak to like a manager. But he's basically said that he wants to get into QS or chartered surveying. I have done my research. My friends are in it, and I'm very passionate about it. Well done. Obviously, passion's important, isn't it, Ricky? What's your opinion on it, Ricky? So he's just asked, what's your opinion on it? Over to you, Ricky.
Yeah, well, it's a good profession to get into. So yeah, I definitely think you're on the right lines. As I said before, I think that there's various different options or avenues to go into quantity surveying. So you could go down the sort of professional QS route, which is companies like ourselves, where we act for developers as a consultant. Again, you could go and work, or you could approach building contractors. Subcontractors also employ QSs. So I'd probably just branch out. Yeah, maybe decide, especially if you've come from a trade background. You might be able to go into specific quantity surveying for electrical contractors, for example. And there are specialist M&E QS QS disciplines out there, so that might be a good place to start.
Okay, fantastic. Ricky, I know you've got to go, mate. Thank you so much for your time. It's been really good to have you on, and I know the students would appreciate it as well.
Good stuff. All right, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Ricky.
Thank you.
Cheers, everyone.
See you later.
Cheers, bye.
Okay, right. Oh, go on, Tracy.
I was going to say, no, if Tracy, oh, hi, Ellie, there you are. I heard your voice earlier, but I couldn't see your picture. Sorry. Tracy, if you'd like to stay on for a little while, this is normally the part of the webinar where we do have a number of questions coming through. So come on, guys, you've got a brilliant opportunity here. I need you to start putting in those questions that you're all asking us throughout the week. And now you have a real-time opportunity to ask the expert. Please do put your questions forward. Alex, I know we touched on one of the questions, but you did, through some of the calls that you've had, I know that there were some, shall I say, shorter questions that have been asked by some of our students over the last couple of weeks. Did you have any more that you wanted to put out while our students are busily typing their new ones in?
To be honest, I think majority wanted to find out what's going on. I think Tracy touched a lot in the initial intro, which covered a lot of the questions that initially, which a lot of the guys have actually spoke about.
Great.
I just think this would be the opportunity for you guys, though. If there's anything since we've been on this chat, if there's things that you want to ask, because Tracy's here, at least you can get into. But in
so much pressure on Tracy. I'm sorry, but from my point of view, that's why we quickly got Ellie on, really, because this part for me, look, as CEO of Pathway, I'm still seeing 24 people on this webinar, which is fantastic, guys. It's Easter holidays. And so what I've noticed, what Tracy and our Tracy at Pathway, it's difficult sometimes, our Tracy at Pathway and what Alex are doing is really spending time on those students who are really focused on it for this year, those students who really want those jobs, because that's where we want to be really increasing our support and making sure that we're working with you on that. And Ellie, like some of the roles that you're speaking with at the minute with the companies, like Barclay on last week, we're just we're recruiting, we're just putting it on hold at the minute, but we're going to be bringing it on. They're actually saying they're going to give a bit more extra support to our students. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're really, really lucky. All of you students who are on the line today and those beyond who are on the programme, is that we have lots of employers who are dedicating time and effort to what we're doing at the moment, which is really helping support you and help you think about navigating what might be a next step for applying to roles. And I know Alex has been firsthand talking to you this week, but I guess from my role talking to employers, what I can give you for a 5-minute overview is kind of how they are going to support you a little bit further. So with Barclay Homes, I know quite a lot of you will have been on the session last week. We're going to be working with them in terms of follow-up coaching calls. So you've had a bit of an overview of the company, you've you've had a bit of first-hand kind of insight, what we call like online an insight webinar, or what in person could be an insight event. Beyond that, we want to make sure that you're getting the support you need to cross the line with your application. So it can be a bit intimidating doing these online processes, filling out the forms, doing the actual interviews themselves, and we want to help you through that process. So I know for Berkeley Homes, for example, a few of the names I'm seeing familiarly that are logged on today's webinar, what you actually have to do in the first stage of that application is sign up with your email to get an application form sent to you via email. So knowing those little things, so you putting your email address in there, you haven't applied yet, you need to wait for the application form to come to you, and then you send your application form back to them. Those tiny little things can be quite confusing, because there's various different application processes for different companies, and that's what we're really here to help you do. So what I'd say is that Berkeley Homes Reach Apprenticeships, which we talked about 2 weeks ago, you need to do an application form for them, and Alex will help you do that. For Berkeley Homes, which we spoke to last week with Naz, there's a slightly different application process, and that's through her directly. So what I'd be doing is, I'm sure Chris and Tracy mentioned earlier in the session today, is grabbing a pen and paper at the beginning of each session, writing down what these people are actually doing, and telling you about their application processes, so that each week you've got a little bit of a note in terms of how those applications work. As I spoke to Telford Homes today, and unfortunately their roles have closed for this year, so I know lots of you have applied because we've been speaking to you, but that doesn't mean that you can't be applying for work experience there, and that could help you on your route. So just finding out those little bits about the different companies. So we've got those updates in terms of Berkeley and Telford Homes, so keep your ear out for our Telford Homes work experience, but also Persimmons. So I know they've got a real focus in terms of recruiting for Essex next year, so they've got a couple of sites in Chelmsford. Tracy's lighting up, so I know it's relevant. In terms of
twice today.
in terms of Chelmsford and Colchester, they've got 2 huge sites there, which I think have a really 2-year longevity on them. So you don't have to be worried about projects ending there, because they've got big sites. And so what I'd say is, if you're on the call now and you're thinking, oh, that's me, I go to Chelmsford College, that could be somewhere I could be going, keep a note of these, and then when you talk to Alex throughout the week, then you can mention that, and he'll be talking to you about those ones which are most relevant to you. So in terms of the updates from that side, those are the ones we've got in mind. Barratt Homes have actually closed their roles, and I know that we would have told you that anyway, but those are some of the key employers. In terms of McClure and Rush, so they have a site in Guildford, which some of you I know have actually been to with me, so it's brilliant, and they will be taking on placement students for September time. So as soon as we get confirmation of that, you'll get an email. So in terms of follow-up actions from today, then I'd say keep an eye on your inbox as you're doing, join these every week, and just keep a note of these things we're trickling through, so that when you speak to Alex throughout the next couple of weeks, then you can go ahead and ask him about those particular things. So from my side, I guess that's an employer update. And yeah, Tracy, I guess you'll echo exactly what I said in terms of, I know from a HBF perspective, then you've had a lot of positive, I guess, buy-in from the employers saying they're really keen to help, which is lovely for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really nice.
Thanks.
That's brilliant. I think we just got a question coming. George, my hero.
George again, I know.
Sorry, Tracy, which roles are available in Guildford? Ellie, I'm putting you on the spot here. Have you got any to hand, or should we get back in touch with George after?
We can get back in touch with you after, but I know that they've got 2 roles coming up in their site in Guildford, so right next to Guildford College.
That's McClure and Rush, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, McClure and Rush, yeah. And in terms of other Surrey roles, then we are working with Berkeley Homes. I know we're always talking about them, but they've got lots of opportunities with the kind of Southern Counties team there. So when we get confirmation on the exact roles, we'll let you know, but for now it's to be confirmed. But just keep an eye, keep asking us. So if we can't tell you now, that if you live in Kent and we haven't told you a specific role, ask us, keep asking questions, and we'll be able to tell you throughout the next few weeks.
And Ellie, you're the one in the team who's closest with the employers. What are they saying about the students turning up to webinars and just showing that they're keen and speaking to Alex every week? What are they saying about those types of students?
Literally so positive. Everything is so positive about the fact that people are you know, I'm so impressed by the fact that it's your Easter holiday and you're here.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, whether you're applying to a construction role, whatever you're applying for, I'd hire people who spent their time doing that. So Holly is our main contact at Telford, and she'll be happy with me to share that. I'm not just mentioning her, but she just said she was so impressed when we were talking about these webinars today, and she said, I want first port of call for this work experience is people that have engaged with Pathway already. So you're already one step closer to those people that haven't been on any of these webinars. So all I'd say is keep doing what you're doing, and just like George, ask those questions. You're never going to know what's right for you unless you ask. So yeah,
and what's happening next, Ellie? Have you got anyone lined up for us next week?
Yes, we do. I'm really excited. So we've had everyone's been brilliant so far. So thanks, Tracy, for today, particularly. But also next week, we're kind of hearing directly from some apprentices from Berkeley Homes again. So we're focusing on trade roles next week. So we've got a dry liner, a cladder, and a bricklayer who are in their first couple of years of their apprenticeship. Talking about their experiences, so complete honest truth around what they find hard, what they love. A good opportunity to ask them any questions. So that'll be that next week, and then the week after that, then we have 3 apprentices again, but from more non-trade routes.
Great. Okay.
And, can I just put a bit of a shout out here, a little bit of an advert, Chris. We haven't confirmed it yet, but it's something that we're going to run with next week for all of those students on our HBF programme. As well as being in regular contact with you, as you know, we're also in regular contact with your college tutors who are actively taking a lot of this digital content and sharing it out amongst their students. And a number of them have been in touch. And if any of you students are on here today from Nescott College, which I think there are some, we've actually been approached by one of your tutors, I think he's one of the head of construction and the head of careers at Nescott College. And what we're planning on doing here, guys, is running a shorter second webinar for you, probably on a Tuesday afternoon. It would last for about 30 minutes, but your tutors were actually going to come in and talk about their career journeys, because many of those actually started out as apprentices in home building or construction in some form of trade, became experts at it, and now they're teaching you. We're very keen to make it happen, but if you guys have any questions that you're dying to ask, we'd love to hear them, and we'll be sending out comms about that later on today. So that'll be next Tuesday, a shorter one, very much Q&A, but with some of your college tutors on it. So we're quite looking forward to that. Had to plug it, Chris. It's my opportunity.
No, I like it. And we never want to keep people over the hour, really, but I just want to just quickly look, names that I often see: Chris, David, Ella, George on everything. Ibad, you're on everything, mate. Well done. Jack, Jessica, Joseph, Joseph Small and Joseph Kafour. You've got Liam, Mandy, Magobo, Michael, 2 Michaels there, Nahid, Ned and Troy. These are the sort of names that I'm seeing more and more of. Ellie's putting more work into you. Alex is putting more work into you. If I was you, right, I'd make sure on your CV that you're working with Alex on is that Tracy Hill is her name from the HBF. You've just met her. Put that down on an application, the fact that you've actually networked with someone from the Home Building Federation. Put down the fact that you've been on 3 or 4 or 1 different webinar and you've met Ricky. Maybe adding him on LinkedIn this afternoon and asking him a follow-up question. It just all goes towards your networking and how you're going to basically smash your career. So
just on that point, Chris, I wonder, Tracy, you have a fabulous newsletter. I know, because I've put some copy forward. Is that something that our students should probably be signing up for, to sort of hear from the industry side of things?
We do promote our newsletters on our website. So it's always available. It comes out once a quarter. There's the HBF website and there's a House Building Careers website. So, both of those would be great to keep an eye on. The newsletter generally goes out to our members and partners, mainly because it's focused at getting them involved. It's I wouldn't exclude it being useful for the students, but it doesn't normally go out. But it is on our website, so people can read it, and you can read absolutely everything else. How we're working on virtual cards to get you on sites, instead of plastic cards. You know, there's a whole host of things that we're working on. So it's always useful to keep an eye on there. And if you go onto the house building careers website, you can get onto the locations where there are employers, and you can go right through to their registration processes that Ellie was talking about just by clicking on the links. So
that's good to know. So I think, Chris, sorry, just to kind of wrap this up, one of the messages that I think has become quite clear today from both Ricky and Tracy is these are quite, you know, challenging times. We do have a bit of time on our hands, and actually for all of our students on this programme, there's probably a bit of research and reading up and a bit more insights that they could be gaining, just even if it's just half an hour a day, just to explore all the different companies, all the different activities, the roles, but also, as I say, get yourself over to the HBF website. I know Alex has shared that with you, but in terms of being informed, you have a special COVID-19 page, I've noticed as well, on the landing page. So it does just help to sort of explore a little bit. You spoke to Tracy, now go and find out a little bit more for yourself. That shows keenness and engagement and a passion and a drive that all of our employers are looking for. Is there any more questions coming through? Otherwise, I've got a question come through. There you go.
So I was just speaking to Magobe, but I think we'll continue that with Alex just at the end, just one-to-one.
Oh, right. Okay. That's a role-specific one. Well, look, guys, I just want to say thank you again. We've said it a number of times this webinar. We do appreciate that this is your Easter holiday, and the fact that you've joined us, and I know some of you have been on our other webinars this week too. That's amazing. Document the ones you've been on. When you go to the CV workshop, hopefully you all attended our CV workshop, start jotting in the ones that you've been on, the different workshops, the different people that you've networked with. That's going to really, really help you. And as Ellie said, our employers are blown away by your engagement, and you are going to be at the front of that queue, and we want to keep you there. So I'm going to wrap things up here. Tracy, it has been awesome chatting to you today, and I'm so pleased you was able to take some time out to join us. I know we really, really appreciate it. I know the students do too. If it's okay, Tracy, what normally happens after this is some of our students who may not feel so confident to raise a question real time, they'll probably bombard us afterwards via email. So maybe I'll share a couple of those with you, Tracy. Maybe we could bring you back in a week or two and do a follow-up session. But thank you, and I hope you've enjoyed it, Tracy.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and talk. You know, it's great that so many of you are on the call as well, you know, so we can all sort of share as Q&As, and that you're really interested. The fact that you're on the call, to me, means that you're interested in house building, so fantastic job. And thank you, Chris, Tracy, Alex and Ellie for doing a fantastic job and supporting all these individuals the way you are. So, yeah, happy to join again, happy to answer more questions.
Thank you, Tracy. Thanks so much. Chris, was there any last comment from you?
No, other than I'm going to stay on with Alex and Ellie just to answer any one-to-one questions. And all of our webinars are now on YouTube, guys. So Pathway CTM on YouTube if you want to go and get any more employability skills at your own time. But well done for being on here today.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys. Okay, Tracy, we're going to end it there then. And you're going to stay on and do a bit of a one-to-one with some of our students.
Yeah, we will. Thanks, Tracy.
Thanks, Tracy. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. If you do want to stay on now, you can do. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. You'll find out about that soon. Tracy, I'll just stay on here with Alex and Ellie if you want.
Okay. Oh, you kick. Oh, I'm host.
Oh, you're hosting. Yeah, yeah. No worries. Just in case there was someone who was just asking me. Was it? I didn't.
There was a question come in, Ellie. I think it was more directed at you, and it was, are there any QS apprenticeships currently open
this year? QS.
Yes, there are. It's a good challenge to me to update you on the roles right now. What I'd say is Reach Apprenticeships doesn't have a quantity surveying role, but it does have some really interesting routes into a really interesting company. So although that's not answering your question, I wouldn't cut it off because it's not a QS role. Chelford do, but as I say, they are closed for now, but work experience is still available. So email, let Alex know and he can track that if you are interested in a QS role at Telford. Barra is more trade specific, and I know they're not doing QS roles for now, but Redrow Homes are. So that Redrow Homes are really regional based. So either, is it Mabogo. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong.
Mark,
But I don't know where you're based, but whether if you're North London based or London based, then there is a Colindale site for Red Row, which do have QS roles. But if you are Kent based, there's another Red Row Homes kind of cohort. So just, unless you know, Alex, but which is most relevant, but I think they do both have QS roles open, and we can point you in that direction based on what's most relevant for you.
Following on, guys, if you haven't booked in with me, and most of you have, I know Mark you have, the information that Ellie mentioned and the others, if there's things that you've jotted, we can go and have that conversation in our meetings, and then I can be able to update you and then what happens next. But if you haven't booked in any of the one-to-ones, or you would like to find out more information, please just give me a little text or something, and I'll get back to you throughout the week.
Alex, what are we working on next week? What's some of the key stuff? Is it CVs? What is it? Is it strengths? Is it coaching?
We're doing that. We're going to do initial meetings of the action plans and going through the what they're looking for, what kind of help, the breakdown of what counties, who's willing to travel to what area, and so forth, and then feeding back the information that Ellie and the meetings like this. So then we can break into the right hot lists. For different boroughs and so forth, and be much more.
That would have been good to hear in the main session. That would have been good to hear in the main session. But well done, everyone. Good session. Tracy, do you want to log us off?
Yeah, I will. And just keep an eye out for your inbox, guys, because after this, you're going to get sent the recording as normal. It is on YouTube now, so it'll be done sort of in the next half an hour to an hour. And if you do have any questions, obviously do reach out to Alex. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your late afternoon now, and we'll catch up with you hopefully next Tuesday, when you're going to join us and some of your college tutors in as well, and hear about their journeys into their career. So thanks, guys, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Ellie. We'll see you all later. Thank you.